think you so eloquently explained exactly what has happened to the price of Bitcoin. We always talk about, hey, this cycle is different, but this cycle kind of was different. We hit an all-time high prior to the halving, and then it's just been a slow grind downwards, as you said. Can you maybe explain to the viewer listening, hey,
Yep.
the halving, what's going on, what's been happening? The ETFs are supposed to bring all this money in, but we're seeing more, as you mentioned again, more of a slow grind down.
Now, the cycle's the same, so it's not different this time, but there are two things that make this cycle. So the first is in the previous halving events, it's hard coded that the block rewards, the rewards paid to miners to secure the network, get cut in half every 4 years because it guarantees that the price will rise. If your block rewards get suddenly cut in half, your expenses stay the same. So now most of those miners would go out of business. Well, that's not what happens. The price rises because they're the ones that have to sell. Remember, they're the hedgers. They need to sell the coins to pay for their expenses. Well, they're not willing to sell them at a low price, so they hold them longer until somebody bids a higher price, and so it causes the price to rise. And on average, it's risen about 100%, which makes sense. If you cut by 50, you have to go up 100. Perfect. Well, this time, it started down that path, but then what happened is runes and ordinals were creating a reusage of empty block space. And in doing these inscriptions, you had to pay the miners transaction fees. Well, if my block rewards go down, normally I wouldn't sell unless I get a higher price, but now I'm getting these transaction fees. So that meant we didn't have as much of a dramatic rise right after post-halving. But the real reason is ETFs were launched and new money has come in, not as much as people think, because we go back to the main question, the dollar versus crypto, or dollar versus Bitcoin. So what people don't seem to snap, which I don't really understand because it's not that complicated, one Bitcoin is one Bitcoin. The genius of Bitcoin is that it is the same. And it will always be the same. It's hard-coded, it is encrypted, it is permanent, immutable, and we know the supply and demand we know the supply, not the demand. But what people don't seem to snap to is we don't price Bitcoin in Bitcoin. Right? We don't say one coin's one Bitcoin.
Right.
We say one Bitcoin is $67,000, $67,400, or, however many yen or euros or bolivars or Argentinian pesos. Everyone says that technical analysis is voodoo and, it's just, lines on a piece of paper. It's just ridiculous, right?
Yeah.
Markets are made up of human beings. Well, that's not 100%. Most markets. Now, I will argue that the stock market technical analysis is less good because of the high frequency trading. The high frequency trading corrupts the human emotion. Humans are always going to human. We all like deals. We all like to get something for nothing or to get something for below its fair value. One of the challenges with crypto, most people don't know what the value is because they don't understand the difference between a network and a company. Right? Okay, if I have a company and it does $1 revenue and has 70 cents of expenses, it makes 30 cents of profit, it pays some taxes, and then the rest goes to shareholders, and I can do a discounted stream of cash flows. Networks are valued similarly, right? We have a rule, Metcalfe's law, and we can take the number of participants in any network, and we can take the growth of a network, and we can take the transaction value if there's transactions on a network, and we can calculate a value. The problem is the price is different than the value. And that's true of all assets. The price that we see is simply the amount that two people will buy or sell or exchange a small amount of a good or service. It has nothing to do with the value, right? It is simply a transaction between two people, one that needs liquidity and one that thinks they're buying something, below fair value, or that's an investor. Investors buy things below fair value. Traders don't give a shit, about fair value. They just need movement up or down. I'm super boring. I buy things, I put them in a wallet or cold storage, and I go do other stuff.
Yeah.
And so somewhere in my series of wallets, I have a bunch of things that I've accumulated over time. But yeah, I don't stress about now. I'm also not a trader. I actually am not very good at trading. I mean, I've tried in the past, and because to be a trader, you have to really do it, right? You have to focus on it.
Yeah.
You can't do it part-time. You can't do it halfway. And unfortunately, that's what most people do. That's why most people stink. But people who really do it, even those people, it's a very small percentage that are good. Because trading inherently is hard as a human. Again, humans, we're overly emotional. We have all these cognitive biases. We think we're smarter than we really are. We think we're more experienced than we really are. We think we're more disciplined than we really are. So it's really hard to overcome the human biases that make most traders really bad at it. Again, it doesn't mean there aren't great traders. There are, very small number.
Yeah.
What happens with these ETFs, and it happened with GLD and others, is arbitrage. So there are these gigantic firms. So like when they say this big hedge fund has 2 billion of the ETF, well, yeah, they do, but they're also short 2 billion of futures against it because they don't take directional risk. They're going to be short Honeywell. So they don't take directional risk. They have equal dollars long and short. But the price actually drifted down for 9 months because the futures get short. And I talked about this on January 10th, that everyone was talking about the approval of the ETFs, but no one was talking about the CME very quietly increasing the number of futures contracts that were going to be available at the behest of BlackRock. Because BlackRock, yes, they bought $300 million worth of the ETF on behalf of their clients, but some of those clients are selling at least an equal amount, in some cases even more, because they're doing something called spoofing, which is they're intentionally trying to lower the price so they can accumulate at a higher price. This is one of the dirtiest little secrets on Wall Street, right? If you know you want to buy a bunch of stuff, do you announce to the world that you want to buy? Hell to the no, because then what's going to happen? Everybody's going to raise the price. So what do? You say, I hate this asset. I'm short this asset. So then everybody panics and the price goes down. And what do? You just accumulate. JP Morgan's been doing this in gold forever. So 2 years ago, they got caught because you're not allowed to naked short. That's against the law. That's bad. But they do it all the time. And so that's what's going on. And that's why I say the series of lower highs and lower lows was being caused by this relentless selling of the futures.
18일 현지 시간 한 비트코인 고래가 하이퍼리퀴드 플랫폼에서 공매도 숏 포지션을 5억 1,500만 달러까지 늘리며 사상 최대 규모의 숏 포지션을 형성했습니다. 이 고래는 지난주 40배 레버리지를 활용해 3억 3,200만 달러 규모의 숏 포지션을 개설했으며 이후 월요일 수백만 달러의 손실을 입었지만 현재 미실현 이익이 643만 달러에 달하며 다시 반등하고 있습니다. 현재 암호화폐 트레이더들은 이 고래의 포지션을 청산시키기 위해 움직이고 있고 해당 포지션의 청산 가격은 85,557달러로 설정되어 있으며 이 가격에 도달하면 거대한 청산이 발생할 가능성이 큽니다. 비트코인은 현재가 83,000을 하회 중이며 지난 24시간 동안 전체 시장에서 1억 8,400만 달러 규모의 청산이 발생했고 이 중 숏 포지션이 9,419만 달러를 차지하며 FOMC 회의를 앞두고 대규모 변동성이 지속되고 있습니다. 또한 트럼프 내부자로 추정되는 주소가 보유하고 있던 6,210BTC 약 5.2억 달러 규모의 숏 포지션을 전량 청산한 것으로 나타났습니다. 해당 주소는 약 2,189만 달러를 출금했고 해당 주소의 숏 포지션 평단가는 83,898달러인 것으로 전해졌죠. 이 익명 주소는 8일 만에 946만 달러 상당의 수익을 실현했다고 합니다. 이처럼 세력들은 공매도를 진행하면서 가격을 인위적으로 낮추고 하락세를 만들어내는 전략을 사용합니다. 비트코인 공매도는 주로 비트코인의 가격 하락을 예상하고 하락에 투자하며 수익을 추구하는 투자 방식입니다. 소위 말하는 숏포지션이죠. 레버리지를 사용하기에 고수익, 고위험 투자이기도 하지만 여러 악재나 경기 침체로 시장이 하락세일 때는 안전한 레버리지로 숏포지션으로 대응하며 수익을 낼 수 있는 좋은 투자 방법이기도 하죠. 현재 비트코인 시장이 상당히 많이 올랐습니다. 트럼프의 관세 정책, 미국 경기 침체 우려, 금리 인상 등 시장에 상당한 불확실성을 주고 있습니다. 현재 상승만을 바라보고 투자하기보다 현물 공매도 현금 비중으로 포트폴리오를 안전하게 구성하며 시장 상황에 맞게 유연하게 적용하시는 것이 리스크 관리를 위한 첫걸음일 듯합니다. 구독과 좋아요는 영상 제작에 큰 도움이 됩니다. 감사합니다.